this meeting to order. Ms. Gary, roll call, please.
Mr. Cordray?
Here.
Mr. Walker?
Yeah, here.
Mr. Rossi?
Here.
All right, if you would please stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the clerk's journal and accept the tapes as the official minutes of the April 3rd, 2019 Township Trustee meeting.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, this time we do have bills for the board. I'd like to make a motion to approve EFT direct deposit vouchers number 11588686668 through 11588688735 and 118868988 through 11588689991.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve payroll and withholding checks 2921578 through 299. Actually, I'm gonna make a correction because I don't think I read the first number right. Approve payroll withholding checks numbers 2992158 through 2992160 and 2992160 through 2992169.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve check number 80021 through 80027.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Make a motion to approve check numbers 80028 through 80065.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, at this time, we do have a presentation with Mr. Dan Corey from the Warren County Engineer's Office.
In respect of all the officers here, I might be a little longer than them. Do you want them to go first?
No, because actually we're going to do an intermission right after there, so, okay, you go this one? Or what?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for asking me to come and speak this evening about some of the work that the Warren County Transportation Improvement District is doing on State Route 63. They're in the heart of Warren County. Obviously, that roadway is important to this entire region, including Hamilton Township. And so we've been going around, and we met earlier with your staff. We've met with almost 40 stakeholders. We're shooting for almost 100 stakeholders of individual conversations with anyone from elected officials and staffs of Lebanon and Monroe and Middletown to Warren County Services for the Aging, the Warren County Soil and Water. So we're hitting a lot of groups as well as private owners in the 63 area. So we've been talking to everyone. We want to make sure that we draw consensus and listen. So tonight I'm just going to present a few things of what the issues are with State Route 63, and then if there are any questions, I'd love to answer them, either with this project or anything else. This is my cleaner. Sorry, the top one. Sorry, I'll show you. Is it this one? Oh, thank you. This graph is a little busy, so I do need a point here. This is just simply a graph of what we all intuitively know. On the y-axis is daily traffic there, ADT. You've heard that phrase way before, average daily traffic. Starts down there at 5,000 and it tops up there at 30,000. And then the x-axis is years, 1980, 90, 2000, 2010, and it stretches out to 2040. The band going across there is That reddish band is that reddish band right in here. That is 8 to 12,000 ADT. And what that is that's a good road that's 2 lanes, based on highway capacity manuals, can carry around 8 to 12,000 cars a day. That's on average, but that's a good number. The purple line, which you see here, and I apologize, I'm normally doing this on the board, but right here, this purple line that's solid there, that turns into a dash line, that is the actual data, historical traffic load from ODOT on State Route 63. So all the way to the left, it starts out around 5,000. It broaches that 12,000 mark right there at year 2000. So it's well above its good capacity for a good level of service. It went past that back in 2000. And then the dash line is projected, and that's with all the growth that's happening with a 3% growth factor that ODOT was anticipating. Okay, so that just continues on out. What has really happened in that region of our county is similar, not much different than what's happening here in Hamilton Township. The growth is tremendous. In fact, the growth is forcing this orange line really is what the growth is starting to look like based on a couple of scenarios. And in fact, that green dot represents the ADT today. So it's well above what ODOT was projecting a couple of years out. So what we're showing is what we all intuitively know, which is, first of all, that State Route 63 built 2-lane, it's over capacity now with the current traffic load. Second of all, the projections are really pushing it to where, if you look at it, it's not getting any better, and it's going to get more crippling and more problematic for that region of the county. So back in 2015, the Warren County TID took this on as a project, and we started looking at it. Again, that graph just simply shows what we all intuitively know. We've hired a consultant team to look at that, as well as the ripple effects. We know that when we fix 63, it's going to have an effect around the whole county. And so we created a transportation plan based on the travel shed that looks like the state of South Carolina. It's this orange line that swings around and comes around here. It actually gets down into State Route 48 and State Route 22 and 3, and then swings on up and around. And the reason why we drew it that way was a couple-fold. One is 63, about 25% of the trucks that get off at State Route 63, or get on State Route 63 off I-75, they go through the city of Lebanon and all the way over to I-71 at 123 to head north. Basically, 63 is the bypass, de facto. I mean, it is the next ladder. You know, you've got cross-county and the regional, the 275, and this is the next run east-west connecting 71 to 75. But they're doing it through downtown Lebanon. So we want this study area to include downtown Lebanon and swing around. And then also we want to look at some of the issues that are down and around the river crossings and some of those areas. So that's what we've been looking at and been talking to with everyone. Why is the TID leading this project? Basically, as we all know here, I'm kind of preaching to the choir that the best outcomes are defined locally. We do it best. Sometimes a state's one-size-fits-all doesn't work for us here locally. So we're trying to do those things that matter to us. Best opportunities to expedite and take advantages of possible funding, especially federal funding. If we were to let ODOT take its course and solve 63's issues, it could be as much as 12 to 20 years before it reaches their prioritization where they're going to start leaning into it. So we're trying to advance it 12 to 20 years with federal funds. There are no state funds, as you know. In fact, there's very little state funds involved in this. We're trying to come up with Turtle Creek Township, with also with Warren County, and with BUILD, build, all capital federal funds. So it's a 50-50 split between the township and the county, coming up with about 50% of a $25 million project, and then the state coming up with, the federal build application for about 50%, or $12.5 million. And that application is due here in the next 90 days. We'll be applying. It is a very stiff competition. We do feel good about it in the sense that Neil Tunison, Dave Young, and Tom Grossman were in front of our President Trump's administration team, Secretary Chow, who was in charge of this transportation for the cabinet. He was in front of her describing this project this last spring and had some good conversation with her. So we're advancing this application, trying to get there, and also the last reason, and if we apply in the next 90 days, which we will, we'll find out this fall if we're awarded. Again, it's extremely stiff competition, but if we are so fortunate as to be awarded, we'll be putting a design-build contract out that ODOT will let next spring. And so the construction could start. So that's advancing the project almost 2 decades. So then the last thing that this slide just talks about is best for framing economic investments outcomes important to the school district and the county. That's why we're also leading it, because we're talking to the school district, we're talking to various stakeholders to make sure that our interest is at the table, considering we're bringing the money. Although it is a state route, it is state-owned, and so they will have a lot of say in it because they manage the roadway when we're done. They own it, but we're trying to get as much of our voice heard during the process. How will the economic development be facilitated? This actually partly was put together for a school district, so we've been reusing these slides, so bear with us. We're in the process of getting them updated, but we'll be looking for reliability, safe facilities for a mix of travel demand. On State Route 63 is kind of really unique. It's not just commuters. You have a prison that has visitors visiting their family. You have horse trailers because of the Racino. You also have a lot of visitors trying to get to the Racino itself. And then you have 8% truck traffic, and sometimes during the day as much as 15%, depending on the time of day. So you just got a mix of vehicles. It's a very unique, eclectic type of vehicle situation that's not too common in any other scenario. So we're making sure we address the safety of all those different travel demands, good visibility, aesthetics, looking at some technologies. We'll be looking at fiber optics, possibly variable speeds with new technologies that ODOT's looking at. ODOT will be controlling the access points. They will be limited access, and it will be only at certain locations. So they're going to be about a half a mile apart, each location. And then sound leakage to workforce and amenities. During this process, one of the unique things that we've learned is that Middletown and Monroe have teamed up to put together the transit system so that, I'll just say it this way, you can go from Dayton all the way down to northern Kentucky, all on mass transit now, through by the RTA and SORTA teaming up together and actually interconnecting their busing system. So that was unique, and so what we're trying to do is work with that linkage to get into our workforce, even all the way over to Wilmington. And so we're having those conversations now, and we want to paint the picture for a setting the table of development. What could that development look like? I think you all have heard in the past that the prison is planning on selling almost 800 acres of their land. The state, through the budget bill of 2017, allowed the DRC, ODOT, and DAS to sell those 800 acres. So that is enabling them to do that, and they're going through the process, and that's also part of the reason why we're having these conversations now is because of that. The right-of-way conversation is being discussed to reserve back the land that's needed for this roadway section prior to selling it off. So, but this could be something that is done. It's a sort of a visual visionary type document. Right there is the Racino. You know, this could end up being some industrial, some warehouse industrial. The red represents mixed use, and the blue actually represents hotels. You may know that, you know, the one of the bigger attractions that's happening here in Warren County is our Sportsplex. They're talking about 700,000 visitors a year. They will come right off of 63 to get to 741 to get to that Sportsplex. So, you know, there's a lot of things going on right in this area, and that will cause us to have wayfinding for those visitors as well. So this is going to have a very unique travel demand on it with the trucks and everything that I mentioned before. I won't repeat myself here, but so this is the presentation that we're showing all stakeholders. I just want to mention that a week from tonight, on April the 24th, up at the Armco Pavilion, we're having an open house. There will be a lot of folks there. Turtle Creek Township will be there with their ladder truck. It's kind of an eclectic fair type event. We will be having a lot more drawings than just these here. ODOT's putting some together for us, but also the Racino folks are going to be there for some recruitment purposes. There's just a lot of different folks. You're more than welcome to bring a table. We'll reserve a table, and you can either set some things out or talk about some of the things that are happening in Hamilton Township. We're happy to have you up there as well. Wednesday, the 24th, from 4 to 7 at the Armco Pavilion. And you may be asking, if I was sitting in your shoes, why are we focused, why is Warren County focused here? The biggest reason right now is there was some Racino seed money from the TIF, about 1.9, that's been used as seed money to focus in on this State Rate 63 area. But I can tell you, I've said this multiple times to ODOT officials, and they're nodding their heads, as well as all other officials that I've been talking to, that, you know, the congestion on 63 is not matched. It's below the congestion on 48, 22, and 3. The reason why we're leaning in on this area and not leaning in on 48, 22, and 3 is simply seed money, that Racino TIF dollars. We have money to start working on this project. So I want to make sure you knew that, but we do, as you saw, we are looking and including that area. Sorry, it's that button here. This area here in our study area, we're including, as you see, it kind of just really dipped down, and that was very purposeful to include this area in our study area and think through that as well. So with that, I'll take any questions or get you on over to swearing your police officer in.
I just have one question, since we have an opportunity to have it before us, and it's completely off topic of this, but it's a topic that's big, I think, in Warren County, especially in our area, let's talk about is the rumor mill again about the eastern bypass.
Sure.
Is there?
Yeah, so as you saw, normally the transportation bill gets passed with very little fanfare and very little publicity to it. This year, it had a lot of eyes on it, primarily because the ODOT requested and saw it fit to ask for a gas tax increase. That's what caused the conversation to be happening. In that bill, there was a piece of legislation that was added in as an amendment that required ODOT to look at the eastern bypass by December 31st of this year. I can tell you that if you go through all of our documentations at the county, and to Neil Tunison's credit, or my boss, Neil, he says, you know, if you look at our documentations, whether it's the Southwest Warren County Transportation Study, or some of our Regional Planning Commission thoroughfare studies, or any other study that we've done, or just simply look at our maps, our problems are not east-west, or are not north-south, our problems are east-west. If you go up to that website, you will see that the general direction of the eastern bypass in Warren County is a north-south. It would solve north-south things if that was our problem. Our problem is not north-south, the problem is east-west. So Neil Tennyson is not in favor of it. Our state legislators are mixed on this subject matter. Paul Zeblinger, who happens to be a Northern Kentucky developer, which you may have seen where some of this sort of grows out of, is in favor, but Scott Lips is not. And Mr. Wilson, I have not heard directly, so I want to be careful. I don't know where he stands on it. But let's all keep in mind that ODOT was begging. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. The commissioners are not in favor of it either. They're not in favor of it. We just don't see it solving the transportation problems of Warren County, and you can help me out here, Kurt. Is there something else I'm missing?
Nope.
Yeah. Yeah. So the issue there is the study will happen. It's the ODOT was there asking for money. They don't have money to even maintain. They asked for 18 cents. They got 10.5. That gets split on a 55-45 percentage to the locals. I'm sure you've heard that, as well as to the state. So ODOT's not getting money that they need. I look at it, if I had to guess, 40 years. I mean, they really need to fix Brent Spence Bridge first. If you go to their website, they no longer say this is in lieu of Brent Spence Bridge. The frequently asked question, the FAQ on their website says this is not in lieu of anymore. They got off that bandwagon, which rightfully so. They say we've got to fix Brent Spence. Okay, well, there's $1 billion. Where's the 2 to 3 billion that's going to do this? I don't know. I mean, it's a conversation piece. It's a good visionary document, but I think it's a visionary document that's something that we here really, we can spend a lot of time talking on it, but those aren't our needs, and that's not going to be something we're going to deal with. I mean, if I was truthful.
I think it's good that there's a lot of clarification. Just I know there's a lot of talk since the recent articles that have come out about it, so I appreciate it.
And Curtis, Neil, we were impressed with Neil was able to plot. He had a bad TV night one night, like I like to say, and he plotted the eastern bypass on the Warren County map. Yes, but you're right to ask, so I don't want to imply that you're not right. You're right to ask because it goes right through Hamilton Township. It goes right through Hamilton Township, and we'd be happy to scan it and just get you a copy of it, just to show you where they're showing it so that you have it for your constituents. Yeah, it's you were looking at it too. It kind of
Yeah, close to Stubbs Mills Road and, those areas. So, I mean, it definitely would have a great impact.
That was all I had. Questions?
Joe, good.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Squirt, thank you. I appreciate you coming out.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, it's time to do a swearing in of a police officer tonight.
All right. All right. Mr. Kitty, you want to stand over here so the family can see? Good evening. Tonight I'm honored to swear in the newest member of our police department, Mr. Joseph Eli Kibbe. Eli is a 2014 graduate of Sycamore High School, where he participated in several high school sports, as well as was in the band. Not sure which instrument.
Bass clarinet.
Bass clarinet and band. Sports. Football. Grew up in Sycamore Township. After graduating high school, he studied at Northern Kentucky University, as well as the University of Cincinnati, where he obtained his peace officer training certification. Upon graduation from the police academy, Eli began working part-time up in Blanchester, just next door in Clinton County. Where according to their chief, he frequently worked more than the required amount of time, which I think is testament of his work ethic and dedication to this profession. He currently resides in Hamilton Township with his mother and father, Rick and Nancy. This might be in his blood because his father, Rick, is a Cincinnati police officer. And he's also joined today by his grandparents, as well as his girlfriend, Sarah, who's a nurse at Kettering Behavioral, actively pursuing her nursing degree. So, that's what he told me. He's right. Okay. He's eager to get started here at Hamilton Township. He's spent several days here. He's real along with our officers. He's going to be a great fit. We're really excited to get him started here as soon as tomorrow. We'll start with Officer Smith. So, with that being said, I will do the honors of administering your oath, and then I believe we're going to have your mother and your father come up and pin your name tag and your badge on you. So, if you'll just raise your right hand and repeat after me, please. I, Joseph Eli Kibbe,
I, Joseph Eli Kibbe,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and that I will, in all respect,
and I will in all respect
uphold the provisions of the Charter of Hamilton Township, Warren County, Ohio,
uphold the charter and provisions of Warren County, Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
and will faithfully discharge the duties of police officer
upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations. And Rick, do you want to do the name tag?
Give this one away for Rocky. Yes.
At this time, we'll go ahead and take a 10-minute recess. We'll go ahead and bring this meeting going back to order here.
We'll need that door.
We do? No, we don't.
Oh, okay.
We're getting, the sun is just bouncing.
Probably a half
Okay,
an
as
hour.
long as it's open.
The sun's reflecting.
Oh,
off
I
the
know,
floor.
for like the
Shining
meeting.
We
right
have to open
through.
meetings.
Yeah,
We'll need-
Gotcha.
That's a problem.
Yeah. All right, at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the floor to public comments with regards to the agenda-related items at 7:07 PM.
Dan Wilson, I-72, 22 and 3, just a couple questions. Number one, I would think, advisory committee did an excellent job on the East Grade hunt. I mean, I don't know if anybody's here, but just kudos to everybody that worked on it. That was a great turnout. Very well done. Another question I got is, I think we're having something possibly happen in Mounts Park this year. The sign. Asked a couple times, if you got money, buy a sign, put a nice sign out there. Have we moved anywhere on this? How about branding it, or is it, April, a year roughly been talking about it?
Mr. Higgins, do we have, just with regards to sign and brand in general?
We do, and it's the same. You want to touch on Moore Park sign? Because, I mean, it's the same answers last time. We're still waiting, working with Cincinnati to get there.
Or I think he's referring to Mounts.
Yeah, but we're going to uniform all signs, and they're actually designing the first one.
So are we, just out of curiosity, we're gonna change like in front of the firehouse, like all gonna be the same, or just?
Our discussions were parks. So, the 3 parks right now, that's kind of what we're focused on, uniforming those signs.
Okay, like I said, we had the money available that people had donated in the past, we would love to help, but maybe either pay for it or at least help out.
Yeah.
The other question I have here, I see about entering into a contract with Big Game Taxidermy. I'm guessing that's about the beavers? Has anybody really done any research on that? As far as trying to eliminate the beavers? Because that's what we're trying to do, correct?
Yeah, that's, I think the motion that's gonna be before the board is with regards specifically to entering into an agreement with them, if the board approves to, try to help mitigate that issue.
I've done a tremendous amount of research on that. I'm not saying I'm a professional, but we're not gonna get rid of them. Okay? You can pay this group, they'll come in, you might get rid of this cubby, whatever you wanna call them, but the families are out there, they're gonna be back. I believe they've been taken out a time or two before. I know we've taken out the dams and all that kind of stuff, but I believe they actually were kind of eradicated once before they're back. I think we really need to look at that. I mean, to me, that's another part about the park. Surely we can work our way around that. You know, how many kids have seen a beaver in the wild or seen one, even us, so true. I know it's a pain in the butt sometimes, but I would hate to see them get eradicated just because for a short period of time. I don't know what the cost would be on this, but guarantee you they'll be back. So really think hard on it. I just would appreciate it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll go ahead and close the floor to public comments at 7:10 p.m. At this time, I will make a motion to go into executive session in reference to ORC 121.22, section G1, to consider the appointment, employment, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official. I'd like to invite Mr. Yoder, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Rossi, myself, Mr. Walker, Ms. Krieger, and Mr. Centers.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes,
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
that was at 7:11 p.m.
Okay.
All right, make a motion to come out of the, oh, hold on, no, we won't.
I don't think so.
I forgot we didn't do it. Never mind. All right, go ahead and make a motion to come out of executive session at 7:49 p.m.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Krieger, you have human resource items tonight?
Good evening, gentlemen. At this time, I request a motion to remove Officer Mark Bidwell effective April 2nd, based on his retirement.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Next, gentlemen, I request a motion to enter into a resignation agreement with Michelle Tagmeyer. You have the documents in front of you. I'm also asking that we allow Brent Centers to sign on behalf of the township if you don't have any questions on that agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to current township business. First item we have is to consider as a motion to enter into a memorandum of agreement for deposits of public funds with LC&B. This will reflect our current contract with LC&B. The only change is that we will be up the maximum amount of deposits from 10 million to 15 million. Guys, any questions on that bill or anything? Is there anything, Senator, just to elaborate on a little bit on?
There's really not, it's the exact same contract other than upping our deposit amount or allowance to 15 million. There's no additional charge or anything, it's just so LCMD can reflect that up on their books that they can take that money in.
Make a motion to enter into a memorandum of agreement for deposits of public funds with LC&D.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, the next item we have to consider is with regards to Red Tree Investment Group for investment management services. This is Red Tree Investment Group will invest and reinvest securities, cash, and/or other investments held in account in accordance with the law, guidelines, and policy statement of Resolution 19-0417. Mr. Jackson, if you would just kind of, give a layman's terms of what this looks like for us.
So Red Tree Investment Group is their consulting group comes in and gives you essentially advice on investments. So what we've been doing in the past is we've had about $3 million invested in CDs with LPL. We've let those mature, that way we can have some cash on hand to reinvest. We're waiting, I think we have one in May, one in June to finalize that, and we'll have all $3 million-ish ready to reinvest. So pulling in Red Tree, they'll kind of manage those funds. We looked into Star, Ohio, which is, they've been returning about 2.55% returns daily. They leave your money liquid up until, I think it's like 1 or 3 p.m. in the afternoon, so it's always accessible. So that's one avenue. We're not gonna pull everything from LCMB. They have most of our money right now. They've been returning about 1.5%. So I did pull them in, explain, different options that we had, and they came back and said they would up it to closer to 1.75, along with adding us into a sweep account, however much we want to put in there. And then finally would be Red Tree, and their investments are typically more long-term, where they kind of lock your money up for a year to 3 years, but they'll return over 3%. So we've kind of gone through that. I mean, we have about $9 million. We're going to keep the majority in LC&B for operational funds. We will reinvest that $3 million. Once you hit $2 million in Star, Ohio, the return rate drops to about 1.5 from 2.5. So we won't invest more than $2 million in Star, Ohio for that reason, but we would like to get up close to that since they're state-backed, very safe. And then the rest we would probably put in Red Tree. Again, I don't want to commit to any of that because Jim, Alan and I haven't sat down and gone over the exact numbers, but that's kind of the ballpark. Red Tree does also, they consult for Blue Ash, Mason, Milford, Monroe, Sharonville, Springboro, Deerfield Township, a number of schools. The only thing they invest in is governments. So, actually, as we were shopping around one of the kind of sales pitches, they asked what we were allowed to invest in. So that was a little nerve-wracking, where Red Tree, all they do is government, so they know exactly what they're doing.
So are they involved just with what investments are involved with them, or do they kind of have a broader scope where they take care
Yeah,
of?
they'll actually kind of manage our whole portfolio, which will be the first time we've had an actual diversified portfolio. In the past, they've just kind of invested in CDs or not invested, and we're at a point where we need to be having a diversified portfolio. They do charge. They charge $1 per 1,000 invested, so it's on a 10 basis points rating.
So level of risk?
Level of risk with them, they're government backed, so they have different kind of pots that you can invest in. Like we couldn't jump into the stock market, but we could go into CDs. There are some mutual funds that we're allowed to as a government. So as they manage that, there's only certain things due to risk that we could not go into.
Very minimal.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
That's always been my concern, is to get into minimal risk, but to also have enough money that we could get our hands on if a tornado blows this building away or blows the firehouse away, until insurance settlements can get taken care of, to replace equipment right away. I've always wanted to try to make sure that we've got enough money to run the township should something happen.
Yeah, and I know you and I talked earlier a little bit about this, and you said this was an investment, some of these types of investments, like as Mr. Hunter was saying, we would have ability up to a certain point each day that money would be liquid if we needed to. In case of a disaster, we could pull it right back out. It wouldn't be like trapped for 3-6 months. It wouldn't be a whole big
Correct.
investment.
So again, the large majority we would keep in LCMB. They would sweep it out after business hours, bring it back in at the start of the day. And then anything in Star, Ohio would be liquid up until, I think it was 1 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so we could always have access to that. That would be less than $2 million. 5 million plus would be in LCMB, so all of that would be readily available.
And I know it sounds crazy, but I've done investigations on 4 or 5 firehouses that's burned. So that means, with a massive loss of equipment and personal gear, and I mean, those things you can get equipment from a neighboring community pretty quick because everybody's got something spare, but you have to get back on your feet quick with something like that. And I've always wanted to make sure we've got that money, even though some of it's sleep better at night knowing we can take care of the township in an emergency.
So you're comfortable with this flexibility and
I am.
whatnot?
As is Ms. Horman.
That's a good one. What's wrong with
I'm kidding.
Do you guys have any questions? No? Then I will go ahead and make a motion to enter into contract with Retreat Investment Group for investment management services.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
And Mr. Razzie?
Yes.
All right, next item on the agenda to consider is entering into a contract with Big Game Taxidermy. As Mr. Wilson mentioned, we do have some concerns with regards to beavers in Mounds Park. It looks like Big Game's proposing to shut down the park for 1 week to do an initial trapping. Following this initial trapping, Big Game Taxidermy will check all traps. Approximately, they're going to put about 15 down on a daily basis for the remainder of the season. This contract will also dictate that Big Game Taxidermy will be responsible for the destruction of the dams to restore water flow, and lakes will be inspected every 3 months for further damage. The budget impact, I guess the price contract is going to be $1,500. Mr. Hickey, do you mind just speaking a little bit about kind of like as far as this company, kind of your conversation and whatnot, just give us a little bit more depth on this?
Yeah, pretty much after when I was asked to go ahead and look for a contract for this, I called 5 different companies after looking on the ODNR. This company actually went out and looked, and he did find 3 different dens down there, and each den holds 2 to 12 beavers, possibly, depending on what the family. And what it does is you have the mom and dad, and then usually like the brother and sister, they actually go off and do that. This company actually said he would come down there once a week, once a day, to actually check the traps and remove any beavers that are going to be down there. It's going to be an annual contract, so this would be for the rest of this year, and they would remove any dens that are down there. We did have an issue with a couple of trees in the front now that we actually were trying to keep for sighting, and they actually were chewing it, and it was very dangerous to where it's about to come down where the small fishing lake is. So that's what kind of triggered this to really get more aggressive on it.
And actually, to Mr. Wilson's point, just a little bit. I mean, I think now we obviously need to probably take care of this issue. But is there, and you may not know the answer to this. I mean, is there as an opportunity as we develop Mounds Park, if we decide to have kind of maybe a nature preserve bit piece to it, if not the whole thing? I mean, is there a way to kind of keep a beaver group in there, where they're called, to kind of have some, like, keep them controlled where they're not damaging our lakes, but yet, you know, if we want to do something like Mr. Wilson said, like kind of have a place where, you know, kids can learn about the beavers and kind of see that. Is that something we can do? Is that feasible to do without damaging the lakes and things of that nature?
Absolutely, because even where the dam is, Dan and I talked about doing what it is, it does a water flow that lets it go over the dam, so they can keep the dam there and yet let the water overflow into the mouth of the river as well. So it can be done later on if you would like.
Okay.
So you can do a controlled habitat.
Correct.
Okay. Is that's something we can do now?
You
Or
can.
this company would do within the scope of this?
This company probably wouldn't. That's not their,
I mean,
it's
yeah,
not what they do.
Okay.
But
yeah. I mean, if that's something you want to look at, we can look into doing that.
what would the expense of that be?
I don't want to give a price on it because I don't even know.
Well, I think it's good to keep in mind, though, definitely as we develop Mounds Park, is to kind of have, you know, we can kind of look at, you know, the overall broad and kind of pick an area and stuff to make sure, obviously, it's not damaging our lakes, but, you know, that would be a nice piece for the park to have that type of nature. I know we got bald eagles, all kinds of other things coming, so.
If they eventually come back, we might as well learn to work with them.
Yeah, what they do is they actually travel up the creek that comes by the river. I mean, they're invasive species. They're gonna be coming, you know, anytime that we have an opening for that river, they're coming up that through the river.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to enter into a contract with Big Game Taxidermy for beaver trapping services in Mounds Park.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Razzie?
Yes.
All right, the next motion we have to consider is a motion to reschedule the May 15th trustee meeting due to a lack of quorum. I know I'm unable to attend that meeting that day that we originally had scheduled. I believe Mr. Rossi's in the same boat as I am. Do you guys have any objection, gentlemen, to moving it to the following week? A preference is the Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday the following week? Wednesday, honestly, is the only night that I would struggle that following week. The 22nd, but the 21st or 23rd are great for me if either one works for you guys, or you guys have a preference.
Give me a date, I'll be.
Preference Tuesday the 3rd? Do Tuesday the 21st, 6:30? Is that good? Thursday, so Thursday we're done. Thursday's an option, yeah, Thursday is not Wednesday. Would Thursday work for you?
The
23rd. Thursday the 23rd, then, I'll make a motion then to reschedule the meeting for our May 15th, 2019 trustee meeting to May 23rd, 2019 at 6:30 PM here at this location.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
All right, and the next item we have to consider is a resolution with regards to adopting a township investment policy, and then Mr. Summers, I'll let you kind of get background on that as well.
Yeah, it's a very basic investment policy. Frankly, it's something we should have had a long time ago. We catch these little things every once in a while. This is one. We go right off the ORC, so it's not a long document, but I reached out to one of my colleagues in Deerfield and gave me his language. It's very boilerplate language, but it's something we need in place in order to do investments. We're currently in investments, so we should already have it in place.
Gentlemen, any questions? There. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 19-0417, a resolution adopting a township investment policy.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rossi?
Yes.
Looks like we do have one work session item this evening. This is with regards to the Miami Bluffs pedestrian crosswalk.
All right, I did talk to you guys, I believe it was the last meeting, about the Miami Bluffs crosswalk, pedestrian crosswalk. Over the past, I think it was 3 or 4 years, we've been getting a couple calls from the residents in reference to putting a 3-way stop by the swimming pool at Miami Bluffs. At that time, we went back and forth with the county, and all 3 years that we've had this, it does not warrant stop signs. So what we did is went back with the plan to try to figure out what we can do to compromise and maybe help out. What we did with this, I did have them do another speed study, and 85% of the traffic fell between the speeds of 28 and 32. Visibility exceeds the recommendation stopping sight distance for 30 miles per hour, even though it is only 25 through that area. The hourly traffic volume was 90 to 140 vehicles per hour, which calculates an average gap availability for a pedestrian to cross Miami Bluffs Boulevard equals about 25 to 40 seconds. So that's, which is sufficient for a pedestrian to complete the crossing. So that was a section of doing the pedestrian. So at that time, the engineer said that they had no problems with us doing a pedestrian crossing. It just does not warrant a 3-way stop. And the reason why it doesn't is they consider it as a multi-way stop was not warranted due to the vehicle traffic having 115 vehicles per hour at the max, and the Ohio Manual of Traffic Control Devices, the minimum threshold at 300 vehicles per hour. So there was no accidents. That was another equation that plays in with this. There was no accidents from the years of 2014 to 2018. So they do not recommend us doing a 3-way stop, but they do recommend if we would like to proceed with the pedestrian crossing. Just wanted to kind of give a visual view of where it is. And where we're looking at trying to put that is actually, you can see the sidewalk and kind of outlets here, but it does not have an outlet on this side. So my recommendation would be, if we are looking to do this pedestrian crossing here, that we get with the HOA and see if they can actually put off the stub off for the sidewalk so we can paint that section there. Without that, I really don't feel comfortable with trying to put them in this driveway over here, because that's where it would have to go if not. So if you guys, after looking through this, I would like to try to see what your guys' opinion is with us recommending to add that stub there, and we would paint this section here. Give a little better view, overhead view. Right here, this is where we want to have it cross. And then I put it, it's kind of hard to see this section here, but this would be where if the HOA would be willing to connect into their sidewalk and come out to the curb. The curb, behind the curb is out of right of way, so we have no authority of putting a curb cut into that. That would have to actually be done by the HOA. And I believe, I don't know, but I believe they would be more than willing to put that in there, being that they're looking to have a crossing put in there. Another thing we would do is we would have to put in signs, pedestrian crossing signs. They would be like a fluorescent green, and it just would have a person with an arrow, with a pedestrian ahead crossing on each side of here. And then we would have two of them coming in the section of right here, right where it's at. There would be one here and one on the other side showing the pedestrian crossing is at that point. But pretty much the direction of, I kind of want to see where your guys' direction is, how you want to do this, if this is something you guys want to proceed with, or think it over, however you want to do it. But I did want to give you the update of what we have, and the cost of it, we would be just a little bit under $1,000 to do that, to have that, or I'm sorry, about with the signs and all that, a little under round, depending on if you guys wanted to do the flashing signs there. It'd be in that area, but just to do regular signs itself would be about $300 to put the pedestrian crossing signs.
Would they, are they gonna have to cut the curb into to put a handicap accessible?
Yes, that would be on, but that would be on them too. Put that in.
If they do the concrete,
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. If they're willing to do the concrete and they want that crosswalk, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I'd like to see the lighted signs if we could. It just seems to capture attention. As I've noticed, most people at some point in time stop paying attention to signs, especially when it's their street. So I'd like to go that direction.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of the same conversation we had on there on Stevens there. I mean, from a safety aspect, I don't have an issue with it at all.
Okay. And I can talk with the HOA to see if they would want to help chip in with that. We do have some HOAs that will help with, like when we do stop signs and adding crosswalks. We did one in Village on the Green. They actually pay for the paint and to have everything done with that in the signs as well. So it might be something we can look at.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Hunter, you.
We are 25% through. We've got through the first quarter of the year. Let me get this up while I get my eyes operating on here. We've spent, expenditures are 21.181%. And you can see the revenues to date are 7.6%. Last week, we received a $70,000 refund from Matt Nolan, which is from real estate collection fees. And we also received our first draw. So between the 70,000 and the first draw, we received $4 million. So you'll see this 7.6% correct on your next report.
Good. All right. Thank you. All right, Mr. Senator, Administrator's report.
A couple things this evening. One, firehouse update, and it's not much of an update. We're right on course with firehouse. We've applied for all the permits. Once those go to the county, which they did last week, the county has 2 weeks to look at them and get them back to us, and we're within that 2-week period. So we're still on course to break ground at the end of this month or first of next month. The website design, same thing. We're still in course with that. We've completed our 4th of 5 consultations and looking at a rollout date in mid-May. Regarding the last public comments where the young man came up and addressed the garbage on the road, Warren County will be sending people out to clean up Sipsey, Stevens, and Leonard. We're gonna be doing, that's a national drug take-back day, and that'll be April 27th. We will be participating, so you can bring any prescription medication or anything to our police department, and that'll be collected and destroyed for you. So we'll definitely be, you'll see some advertisements for that coming up. And finally, Mr. Hickey's gonna give an update on the cemetery wall, and then Bugsworth and how that might affect Schlotton as well.
Okay, in reference to the cemetery wall, just with the rain we've been having, we haven't been unable to get our mini hoe down there to actually clear that back out. That is something we're looking at trying to have by the end of this week. And then we've got two cemeteries, actually back at Baker Cemetery down on 22 and 3. That wall collapsed down too due to the landslide. So we will be working on that, just to let you know. Another thing too, I've been trying to keep up to date with Butterworth and what our status is on that. I did talk to Roy Henson with Warren County Engineers today, and just asked him if he can kind of give me a real quick scenario or summary of what's going on. The project went out to bid yesterday, 4/16. Project should start on the week of June 10th. Now this is with, I just want to reiterate to everybody, this is with perfect conditions. There's a lot of scenarios with this. So with everything going good, they're looking to do it on the week of June 10th. The contractor has 8 weeks to complete the project and is projecting to be finished in 4 to 5 weeks. The project is slated to be finished on the week of July 15th in that area. That's what they're looking, like I said, weather permitting. Project dates are based off of the weather and productivity of what's going on. But if you have any more questions, Kurt might be able to tell you a little more about it, but that's kind of where, because one thing I'm going to have too, just to bring to you guys, on Swatman Road, I have a 42-inch pipe that goes across the road there that's going to need to be replaced. So we're trying to work with not closing every road down and seeing how Butterworth is doing before I close Swatman Road. But I will be coming with you guys for an allocation for the pipe as well.
Any word on how long Butterworth's gonna be closed?
That's just, they're looking July 15th is when it is.
Mr. Rover, if you want to come up, that'd be great.
There's the guy that closed that road.
What's that?
I said, there's the guy that closed that
Yeah,
road.
right, exactly, yeah. But, great question. You see this, it's been closed forever. Kurt Weber, Warren County Engineer's Office, also a resident of the township, 235 South Creek Lane. But, yeah, frustrating for us too. And I know it is for the residents. And you think, oh gee, it's basically 2 months before the contractor could get started. We had a conversation this morning even about could we go with the second bidder and get it done quicker, get it done sooner. Just so happens the second bidder actually is related to the first bidder, but that's kind of irrelevant. The point is, all these contractors are covered up with work in general, but especially with this year, with all the landslides that have occurred, it's just, he can't get to it. So we were glad that we had 3 bidders on the job, to be quite honest with you. Because I asked Roy, I said, what can we do to expedite? And he said, he was worried that nobody would bid it, and then we'd have to go through the process and rebid it. So, appreciate your patience, because I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating for us too, but that's as quick as it can be done. And the contractor knows that, we're looking at all, the idea of even looking to bidder number 2, which is $15,000 more, that they can't do it any quicker either, was what we found out. But, that's how bad we want to get it over. So we're doing what we can, but there is there's a lot of projects, and there's been a lot of landslides and slips, and to be quite honest with you, there's not that many, there are fewer and fewer contractors anymore too, and that's what we run into. So, any questions, any follow-up questions?
I appreciate you.
Okay, thank you, thanks for coming up.
And one more thing. We had some good news. Chief Reese will be returning with light duty or partial duty very soon. next week. So I just wanted to thank Captain Goodpaster. When we found out Chief was gonna step out for a little bit, the captain stepped up without hesitation, and we haven't missed a beat, and it's been very comforting knowing that you've been down there, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Been a good 2 weeks.
Yeah, thank you. How's it?
All right, at this time, I'll go ahead and open up the floor to public comments at 8:17 PM.
Dan Wilson, 572 West 123. I just got to have discouraged about the contract with the taxidermy. Mr. Hickey and I have talked in the past about this, concerning about how much it was going to cost. This is a $1,500 contract. I believe Mr. Hickey has all the material necessary available, that he has already. I'm a little discouraged that we didn't reach out to some of the groups out there prior to this. I've spoken with Florida Water, OB, and all different people like that, and they were interested. Just, like I said, it's just something I hate to see us do, that it's a waste of $1,500, I'm telling you that right now. If you remember, we had a stuffed beaver in the front lobby years and years and years ago, where somebody shot one down there. I'm gonna say that was 25 years ago. Remember when they had it in there? So you can move them out, they're coming back. So we've got to learn to live with them, and I'd rather see the $1,500 invested in something like that to cure the problem instead of the Band-Aid of eliminating until they get back. Just my thoughts.
All right. I will go ahead and close the floor to public comments at 8:18 PM. All right, next item is trustee comments. The only thing I'd like to say is that just appreciate everybody that came out for the Easter egg hunt. It was, I think, a massive success. I think we probably had to turn out close to, say, 1,000 people or so, probably roughly. Yeah. So I just want to thank all the volunteers, all the staff that were involved, just the advisory committee especially. They did a great job of putting the event together. I think it definitely heard nothing but positive feedback from the residents. I think they're definitely excited to have the event back, and also too, just to thank all the sponsors, again, just for everything they provided as well.
6,000 eggs in 3 minutes and 18 seconds. I timed it, I was asked to time it.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I was out the
That's a
test.
good event.
Yeah, and I was out at test run Tuesday or Monday night, and I didn't see any in the field ball field. I was out over there in the back. I think they grabbed them all.
That was cleanup as well. Mr. Hickey went down, and all the volunteers didn't just do the fun part. They were there early in the morning, and they stayed very late, and it was spotless. And they did outstanding work.
Yeah, keep them up, reach out, I appreciate it. All right. At this time, we'll go ahead and make a motion to go into executive session in reference to ORC 121.22, Section G, Item 1, to consider the employment or compensation of a public employee or official. Number 2, to consider the disposition of property. And number 3, for conducting or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of employment at 8:20 PM.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
Oh, and I apologize, I don't know if we need this on our, I do want to invite, it would be myself, Mr. Walker, Mr. Rossi, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Yoder, Mr. Centers, Mr. Hickey, Ms. Krieger, and Mr. Ward. All right, go ahead and make a motion to come out of executive session at 9:12 PM.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
All right, I'd like to request a motion to amend the agenda and add 2 items, which will be to enter, a motion to enter into contract with Kenny Hickey and a motion to enter into contract with Chief Scott Hughes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
with those two items, I'd like, you have the contracts in front of you. Pending any questions, they've been distributed. I'd like to request a motion to enter into contract with Kenny Hickey.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
Same as before, you have the contract in front of you for Chief Scott Hughes. And pending any questions, I'd like to request a motion to enter into contract with Chief Scott Hughes.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.
That's all I have.
This time I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:13 PM.
Second.
Mr. Cordray?
Yes.
Mr. Walker?
Yes.
Mr. Rousey?
Yes.